Hey guys, happy Thursday. I wanted to pop in here today and talk all about social media with you guys. This is probably one of my number one most asked questions is how do I do social media? How do I show up in this space of billions of people and create some noise? So I'm going to go through some of my top tips with you guys, and these are just kind of the tip of the iceberg of different things that I do to show up, to add value, and to create community. Because really, truly, what social media is it is a space to create connection, conversations, and community. And so that is the ultimate goal of creating some type of social media platform or your own brand on social media, is to create those things, right? So why do people show up day after day? Why do people comment and like and click that little follow button? And how do you get that without having to compromise, maybe your morals or your integrity, of feeling like you maybe need to purchase followers or purchase likes or purchase comments? Because unfortunately, because of how big social media is, and because so many people base the authenticity of the actual account based on how many followers or comments or likes they have, sometimes people get to a point where they think, oh, well, it's the smartest thing to do is just to purchase that so I can get a leg up on what other people see or other accounts, right? So I'm going to walk you through my top things that you can do to not have to dive into that. So this is going to be really focused because it's going to be only 30 minutes long. So grab a notebook and let's dive right in. So first things first is you want to pick a social media platform that you actually like, because then you will actually show up. So this is where you have to ask yourself, what do you turn to when you are kind of feeling the need to just check out a little bit mentally, to whether it's scrolling through Instagram or it's scrolling through Facebook, or you have certain people's Facebooks that you really, really love, or maybe you love getting on Twitter, or maybe Pinterest is like you have boards upon boards upon boards. What social media platform do you tend to turn to the most? That's where you should start. Now, a word of caution with that is you don't actually want to start with a bunch of different platforms, because that can be really overwhelming and it can fall really short, because there's no way, unless you're hiring help, you can be available or you can be around for every single platform. So pick your platform that you actually like to show up on and that you personally love. So for me, it's always going to be Instagram and Facebook. Those are two platforms that I love showing up on. I love the creative outlet that both offer me. I love taking beautiful photos. I love creating pretty graphics. I love the small blog-like postings that I get to do, and I love the community there. So there's also kind of a different demographic on every social media. So it's also figuring out who are your demographics, right? So pick your social media platform that you love to show up on. Now, this is the second thing, and this is where I feel like so many people kind of fall short, is sharing your experiences with your products. So especially those of you guys who do network marketing, there's a very fine line of being just straight advertisements and just straight like, let me pick up a catalog and share everything out of here, versus your experiences. Now, this is why people show up for my social media, I can guarantee you, is because I share real life experiences that I've either used with my product, with our oils, or with other products that doTERRA offers. I give them a glimpse into my actual life. So people show up because of the value you add and because of the stories you tell. So if your posting is just, here's a bottle of this essential oil and here's how you're going to use it, that's great. There's no personality in there though. So you have to find your own voice. Now, again, I'm going to throw out words of caution that either I've experienced or that I've seen in other people's social media, is you want to find your authentic voice. You don't want to take someone else's verbiage or their wording or their pictures and repost it to your social media. A, that's copyright infringement. So you want to make sure you're not taking other people's verbiage or their actual photos. But B, it's not energetically aligned with who you are or how you show up. So what I want you to do is I actually want you to deem inspiration from what somebody else is doing and figure out a way to morph that into something that feels really authentic to you, okay? So this takes practice. This takes showing up. This takes consistent practice every single day. Hi, Betty. Yep. Sorry. Sorry, guys. So, mom duty always calls. So this is something that I want you to really focus on. If you are practicing writing your social media posts, is make it where it shows your personality. If you and I were sitting down at coffee and you were telling me a story, would that story be funny? What emotions are you trying to evoke? Because we are emotional creatures. So we share things, we comment or we engage back with posts that evoke an emotion from you. And so I will notice this even on my social media posts are things that I'm just sharing, like here's a tip, here's a trick, here's, a way to get started. Those will generally get lower engagement because it's more of a factual, like here you go. But when I post things that are like kind of more heartfelt, like, posts about motherhood or posts about grabbing my oils in a situation where I felt very like panicked or helpless, when I post things that are more emotion evoked, I get higher engagement. So you want to turn around and you want to be sharing a story that's going to evoke an emotion. Now, emotions can range, right? It can range from an emotion of wanting to purchase, an emotion of, happiness, joy, laughter, sadness, of feeling the same way that you feel. So you want to be a storyteller is my point. And you want to tell stories in a way that's going to evoke engagement. Okay. So, when you are posting, especially now, this is specific to doTERRA. When you're posting, you want to post in a compliant way. Now, doTERRA has a full list of compliant verbiage for you guys to utilize. And this is actually something that I love to play off words. I love to, again, incorporate it into my witty way of telling stories. So you want to be posting in a compliant way. So we don't want to be talking about our oils or our products in a way that are talking about, healing or prescribing or anything like that. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with doTERRA specifically, you can Google doTERRA compliant language and it'll pop up for your market. Now, every market is also different. I have a huge Australian team. I have a Canadian team. Like, they're all different compliant languages. So you want to make sure that you're looking at what is compliant for your market specifically, okay? And if you have questions on that, just reach out to the person who enrolled you, or you can call doTERRA's customer service and they can get you the link. So number 4 is engagement. So like I started this out, the purpose of social media is to create connection, conversation, and community. So if you are posting something, and I call it posting and ghosting, and you're just leaving and people are commenting, but you're not engaging back with them, you're gonna see your numbers dwindle down because people are there to create conversation with you. And in the algorithm right now, again, this always is changing constantly, but in the algorithm right now, that's what is actually fed into the algorithm is connection. So if the algorithm sees that people are commenting on your photos, you're commenting back to them, then it'll automatically boost you into the algorithm, okay? So, yes, and somebody said vulnerability works for engagement every time. Doesn't mean it's easy. Absolutely. Anytime I share something that is like very raw and very real, like I had a little bit of skin cancer removed from my lip, and that was a piece of my story that I totally wanted to hide from, but I didn't, because I know that there are so many people out there who probably need to get their skin checked, to be honest. So, that was a very vulnerable moment for me this year of sharing something that felt very scary. And, of course it's my face. So it's very, it was a hard experience, but I knew that it was going to help more people than me putting my head in a paper bag or hiding on social media, right? So okay, so back to engagement. Do not post and go. So what I tell people is if you are going to be posting, make sure you're around for 30 minutes. Jump back in. You'll notice that I do this. I jump back in. I comment back to people. I like their comments. Even if you're going through and just liking their comments, do what you can, but don't post and ghost, okay? So engagement is really, really important. Number 5 is go live. You guys, things like this live video feed is probably one of the most sought after things. Now, people will sit and actually watch my videos for 30 minutes versus reading a 2-paragraph post. People want to see you. They want to see the behind the scenes. This is why Insta Lives and Insta Stories or Facebook Lives or Facebook Stories are so popular now, because people want to know that you're an actual human being behind your account. They want to know the ins and outs. They want to, and the piece to this too is you can allow people to fall in love with who you are actually as an actual human being, not a glossy photo, right? So that is something that you're gonna have to get comfortable with going live, because live media is what drives, again, it'll drive your account into the algorithm, right? So it's important to show up and to show up consistently. This can't be like okay, I did my 1 live for the month and I'm good. Like you should show up consistently, especially with Instagram, especially. You should be doing at least 4 to 6 Insta stories per day. So going live is really important. Number 6 is knowing your avatar or your audience. Who is your ideal customer? Now, this is something that I coach my team through a ton, is who is the person that you actually want to speak to? So if you are sitting in a room and your ideal customer or client is sitting across from you, who are they? And everything down to the minute detail of what do they look like, what are their hobbies, what are their passions, what do they make financially, are they a parent, are they not a parent, who is that person that you're talking to? Because you actually don't want to talk to everyone. There are over 1 billion people on Instagram and over 1.4 billion over on Facebook. There are a lot of people. You don't want to be talking to every single person on your social media platform, but you do have a specific demographic that you want to be talking to. So who is that person? Take the time to write it out. Take the time to, pour that person onto a piece of paper. And when you are doing your actual posts, you are actually posting for that person. Okay. So you guys hold your questions. I'm going to try to burn through these last few tips and then I'll scroll back and I'll go through questions. So, okay. Knowing your client. And if you're doing this as a business too, who's your ideal business partner? Now, these are 2 different avatars. For me personally, there's 2 different avatars that I actually post for when I am posting for business versus for just, everyday essential oil users. Okay. So, let's see here. Number 7, don't be spammy. And this is just real life talk, guys. Don't be that person who's every other post is like, buy a kit, here's my promo, buy a kit. A, that's just unprofessional. B, that's annoying, and you're gonna get a lot of people who unfollow you because really, truly, that's not adding value. That's just constantly asking for the sale. So what I follow is like an 80-20 rule. 80% of my posts are going to be value with 0 expectations. Here is a tip, here's a trick, here's a mindset, and there's things that I have kind of evolved into that I really love, right? Like I love coaching people with their mindset. I love coaching people with knowing that they are really just endless with the possibilities that they can create, right? So like those are things that I'm super passionate about, and you'll see me posting about, different mindset, different leadership posts, things like that. But you'll also see me posting about, oil tips and oil tricks, and they're literally things that I'm doing in my everyday routine, whether it's something that I'm using on my kids or it's something I'm using personally or I'm taking internally. You will see tips that are literally just adding value. So 80% of your posts should be adding value. The other 10 to 20% should be showing people how to get started, because it's also a direction thing that as a consumer, if I'm following you and I'm seeing what you're posting and I'm falling in love with it, I need to know how to get started, right? And so you're doing yourself a disservice if you're just constantly posting tip upon tip upon tip, and you're not showing people how to actually get started and how to actually join your community, right? So you do want to post about how to get started, but you also don't want to make it that it's like this. Every other post is a, here, get started with me. Or at the end of every post, it's always an ask of, hey, if you want to get started, if you want to do this, if, whatever verbiage you're using is, here's how to enroll, here's how to enroll. To me, that feels very spammy. And so it is figuring out what's in alignment with you and how does it feel good to add value to other people. So, number 8 is stay consistent. Now, this is something that I see all the time is people will start an Instagram account and they'll do it for maybe about 6 weeks. And then they'll say like, oh, I'm not getting anything from it. And then they tend to dwindle off, right? Because Instagram and social media is not an instant gratification thing, guys. I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't until I was probably around 7,500 to 10,000 people following me that I consistently had the trust of people to enroll with me who were perfect strangers. Now, this is another thing, is it generally takes people anywhere between 10 to 12 touches to purchase nowadays. Now with social media, because of the exposure, it actually is a little bit higher. So it's at anywhere between 12 to 20 exposures for somebody to turn around and to say, hey, I've been following Keely for a really long time. I actually am ready to get started. I want to buy these oils and I'm going to buy them from her because I've been following her content, because I've been seeing her show up every day, and because I genuinely like you, right? And so make sure that you're showing up every single day. And whether it's one post and a couple Insta stories or it's multiple posts, whatever fits within your schedule, show up consistently and know that social media, if you're doing doTERRA as a business, social media is like your unilevel. This is the long-term game, right? So this is not something that if you just opened an account and you decided to start sharing tomorrow, that you should expect to be getting tons and tons and tons of enrollments the next day. Again, I'm just being honest because it is about the consistency, and it's about, again, this is where your authenticity is so important, because it's not necessarily about you showing up and just adding tons of value, but it's you showing up as the person that these other people are searching for, right? And that's very much so an energetic thing. So if I'm showing up and I'm sharing things that I'm feeling inspired to share, the people who need those posts will see them, because energetically we're on the same level. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So stay consistent and just know that social media is something that you really have to love it, to be honest. If it feels heavy to you, if it feels like it's a chore, if you really hate it, then that energy will surround your social media and it will drive in nothing. No matter how many tips and tricks you follow, it'll literally drive in nothing. So, okay, so next thing, make your photos or your posts pretty. Again, this is not me being judgy. This is just human nature. If you are posting on social media, we judge someone's social media by the first 9 to 12 squares, right? You click on someone's profile, you look at the first few squares, and you instantly decide if it's somebody you want to follow or somebody that you're like, nah, I'm good, right? So if your feed is dark and dreary, and there's people who post moody posts or who have more, a certain signature look that is theirs, and there's people who do that beautifully. But if your posts are cluttered and confusing, then you're not gonna see the return on people seeing your Instagram that you would if your posts were pretty. So, to take beautiful photos, you want to spend some time. I took all of my photos for the first probably 3 years on social media with my smartphone, with just my iPhone, guys. It was not some fancy camera. I now have a beautiful camera that I love to use and I love to learn about, but it's more so because that's a hobby of mine. That's something that I love, photography, and I like that creative outlet. But probably 90% of my social media feed was just pictures on my smartphone. So I was learning how to use my smartphone and learning what lighting I liked, what backdrop did I like, how did I like to create my posts, okay? So you want to learn how to make beautiful photos, okay? And then let's talk about growing your account. So somebody had made a comment like, oh, I would love to grow my account, but my account is literally stuck at like a couple hundred followers. So growing your account comes from exposure, right? So it really needs to be something that you are exposing yourself to new people every single day. Now, this can be through a giveaway. This can be through connecting in with influencers. This can be through, getting into the Explore tab, which is through hashtags, right? So if you're not hashtagging your photos, you should start, because hashtags are basically the Google of Instagram. I don't know if hashtags work as much over on Facebook, but I do know that they work over on Instagram. So, leveraging your account where you are getting additional exposure is super, super important, because if not, you're just going to be sitting and no one's going to be seeing your stuff. No one's going to be, you can have the most incredible feed, but if no one new is seeing it, then what's the point, right? And so it's figuring out how can you leverage your exposure by connecting in with influencers, by connecting in with, doing group giveaways, by doing things that you can actually leverage that exposure, right? So that is another thing for growing your social media. And I just touched on this, but use hashtags. You can use up to 30 hashtags in an Instagram post. And again, these are basically the search engine of Instagram specifically. And so if you're not using them, you are literally missing out on somebody searching a specific hashtag. Now, this is the other key thing, and I guess the caveat with hashtags is like you might search a hashtag and you might see like doTERRA has, 1.2 million posts for doTERRA alone. Well, the reason why you get put into the search engine or the Explorer under a hashtag is because your engagement. Now, you will notice accounts like mine, and there's a couple other large accounts, are always going to be in that search engine because we have high engagement. So you actually might want to put different hashtags on yours that actually are a much lower number, certain things. And you want to search hashtags because there are actually hashtags that are shadow banned. And so you can actually get your account into some trouble if you're using specific hashtags that are not necessarily compliant in the Instagram world. So you want to search your hashtags before you just throw them on a photo, okay? So that's really, really important to be utilizing them. And you can utilize them. You'll notice sometimes I'll put them in the first comment, sometimes I'll put them under the photo. But again, these are just kind of ways for people to search and to see my photos, okay? So, and then last but not least, my last little tip, and I'll do like 5 minutes of questions, is don't compare. You guys, if I got onto social media and I looked at some of these bloggers who have millions of followers and felt like, wow, they've been doing it the same amount of time I have, and I only have, 75,000 followers on Instagram or 25,000 over on Facebook, then I could feel like a very small fish in a very small pond, right? So, but you can't compare, you can't compare yourself to, I've been doing Instagram specifically for almost 5 years. I've been doing Facebook for the last 2. And so I think it's really important to not look at what everyone else is doing. And sometimes that means that you're not following a bunch of oil people or a bunch of people in your network marketing industry, because you can get a little bit of a hazed vision of what you want to create, right? And you can easily pull yourself into that comparison mode where you feel like, oh, what I'm doing is not enough, or, she does it better than me, so why am I even trying? Like, your voice is needed. People are searching for you specifically. And I talk about this a ton. Just within this business, but especially on social media, like there are people who are waiting for you to show up. But if you are constantly looking side to side as to what other people are doing, then you can constantly feel not enough, and it can derail your energy and your vision for what you want to create, right? So those are my top tips around social media. You guys, I am launching a social media course that's going to dive way deeper into these things and how I've created my social media platform. Again, this is probably one of my most requested things that I get whenever I do a Q&A. And so it's time for me to dump all of my knowledge into a place where you guys can learn. And so if you go into my Instagram, my link in my Instagram, there's a newsletter sign up, and that is actually how I will be launching it, is putting it on a newsletter. You'll see it trickled throughout my social media in the next few weeks, but it's going to be videos because I'm a visual learner. So I want to learn by watching you. So that's how I am going to launch this course. So if it's something that interests you, sign up for my newsletter and you will get all of the latest and greatest news from myself personally. And again, lots of videos for you guys to learn. And this is how I've built a multi-million-dollar business, just so you guys know. This is how I've maintained and sustained a very organic presidential diamond organization, is through my social media platforms. This is how I have a global team. And so I want to share that knowledge with you guys and allow you guys to learn and to develop. So I hope that this was helpful. I'm going to scroll back because I feel like there were a few questions that popped up. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I'm scrolling back quite a ways. Okay. So one of the questions, I have a hard time finding things to go live about. Now this is something that you have to look at. How is your product or the oils or whatever you're utilizing, how has it impacted your day? So it may be something as simple as like, hey, this time of year, people tend to get really defeated as far as their immune system is concerned. So this is what we do every day to make sure our immune systems are really supported. So you're looking at little things that, and especially if you've been utilizing doTERRA for a while, you may subconsciously not even realize how much doTERRA has impacted your routine. So that's what I would do, is because when you're speaking about an experience or you're speaking about utilizing a blend or something personally, it comes out so much smoother than you trying to teach or to, stand up and talk to people about something that you feel really uneasy or nervous about. Okay. So that would be my recommendation with that. What about while working full-time, still recommend 4 to 6 Insta stories per day? Yeah, you guys, Insta stories are 15 seconds. So it really isn't like this massive amount of your day. And if you're working full-time, it's just taking maybe a minute or two and, hey, this is the blend I'm using, this, or maybe you're into something else. Maybe you're into meditation and it's like, hey, I'm using this essential oil for a quick 15-minute meditation. But I would definitely recommend 4 to 6 Insta stories per day. So how do you overcome the fear of what people may think of you? I'm going to quote my dear friend, Rachel Hollis: other people's opinion of me is none of my business. So there's always going to be judgment on you, whether it's judgment on you and what you are doing or judgment on you and what you're not doing. So what I have done and what I've learned is that as long as it's something that brings me joy, I do it. If it's 100% yes, I'm in. If there's any part of me that's like, I don't really want to do that, then it's a no. And it's that simple. It doesn't need to be this, oh, am I going to offend this person? But this is also why I've created a business account where people who are following me have actually decided to tap that follow button. I've never purchased any follower, any like, any comment. Everything that I have built is completely organic, and it's actually people who want to follow me for the content that I'm sharing. And so I know the way that I'm showing up is going to constantly evolve, but I'm also not apologetic for the way that I show up. The way I live my life may offend somebody, but guess what? They can unfollow me. So there's that. Ange Peter says, usually that person you're talking to is yourself several years ago. Yeah, she's so spot on. And that's really the core of like, who are you trying to guide into this lifestyle? That's the person you're talking to, right? So, let's see here. All right, guys, it's 12:30. I actually have to go. So I hope that this was helpful for those of you guys who are looking at 2019 and who are wanting to build some type of social media following. So, oh boy, hold on, guys. I gotta block this guy. I don't know how to block him. Anyways, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this added some tips and some ideas that can really help to move you forward in building your social media empire in 2019, and be on the lookout for that course that's going to pop up for you guys. It's going to pack a punch. So I'm really excited to share it with you guys, and I will be back next week. So we will see you guys around here next week and dive into more additional comments. All right, see ya.